That Ramayana. So thinkers have classified the tendency of the mind under 5 heads. So this is an examination question. The first of these is called as kshipta, which is a disturbed state of mind, including all feelings such as hunger, thirst, sorrow, desires for wealth, fame, etc. Kshipta. And majority of the people are in kshipta. They are running behind one or the other. Although they are seated one place, their mind is running behind something or the other. Okay. The second one is mudha. It includes a tendency to promote sluggishness, indolence, or sloth. That means you are reluctant to do anything. There's a lot of inertia. That's the second one. ಮೂಢ ಏನು ಅಷ್ಟು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಲ್ವೇನೋ ಮೂಢ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ in Kannada. Can't you understand so little? That means the mind is not working at the pace that it's supposed to. It's slow in its working. Mudha. Many people who are like having learning difficulties, mental retardation, they are like Mudha. They are not able to grasp the thing in pace with what they are supposed to do, like others. The third one is Vikshipta, pertains to the tendency which drives the mind away from sacred thoughts and brings about the haunting of numerous irrelevant ideas at the time of the mind meditation. Vikshipta is basically scattered. The mind gets scattered in the sense that it keeps running behind many different ideas or thoughts during the meditation or even otherwise. In Kshipta, the mind is running behind one thing to the exclusion of others, but some worldly related things. It could be hunger, sorrow, thirst, or material wealth or fame or something like that. But it's mainly related to one thing. Kshipta. Kshipta means in a way it's like contracted, focused on one, but excessively. In Vikshipta, the focus is not there, it's kind of all over the place. Away from the sacred thought. That's the criteria. Away from the sacred thought, but all over the place, even behind many ideas that comes in the mind during the meditation or outside the meditation. That's called as Vikshipta. Vikshipta means not contracted. Kshipta means contracted. Right. Fourth one is Ekagra Vritti. It is the tendency which makes our attention fixed on one thing only. So here Ekagra Vritti is something that's going to be useful for us. So your mind is not focused on useless things, like what happens in Kshipta. But here it's focused on something useful for its evolution. Ekagra Vritti. Last one is the Viruddha, is a tendency which brings the mind to a perfectly self-contained state, free from complexities and disturbance. That is what we need to arrive at when we start meditation. We all start meditation at Kshipta. But gradually we come towards the Niruddha. Without the state of Niruddha in the mind, you cannot achieve Nirvana. Niruddha and Nirvana, they're both related. Without getting Niruddha, there's no question of Nirvana. In the Nirvana, you are devoid of all the avaranas. So if there is no Niruddha, what you get is only avarana, not Nirvana. Can you see the three words related? Niruddha, Nirvana, Avarana. With Niruddha, you get Nirvana. Without Niruddha, you get Avarana. Without Niruddha means the other four states of mind. You get Avarana. That's all. In other words, you create complexities. In Niruddha, the mind is free of complexities and disturbance. In the other four steps of mind, you actually create a disturbance and complexities. In the Kshipta, Vikshipta, Mudha, and Ekagravritti. Ekagra vritti, if handled properly, can give rise to niruddha. If ekagrati is only directed to the external world, we can be having good concentration in science, good concentration in maths. It is still going to entangle us. Although it's going to help us learn few things and maybe evolve to a certain extent, which is not possible in the case of the first one, Kshipta. ಸರಿನಾ ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ ಗೋಪಾಲಕೃಷ್ಣ.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿರುದ್ಧಾಗೆ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ as self contained ಅಲ್ವಾ? ವಾಟ್ ಡಸ್ ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್?
You are established in the self, in the sense that you are happy with the self. You remember pratyahara, self withdrawal. So in the niruddha state, you gradually, that's why I said that it will actually take you more towards spirituality. You kind of withdraw from the unnecessary things. You are kind of established within yourself, which becomes the state for you to gradually move towards higher states of spirituality. So the fifth stage is what? That's why I related niruddha to nirvana. Without niruddha, there is no question of nirvana. You don't get nirvana from ekagrata. You get nirvana from niruddha. Can you see? Anyway, so these 5 states of mind are an examination question. You need to know that it's there in the chapter on realization. Keep it in mind, and if you get the question, you can probably look and answer. It's not a closed book question, it's probably more likely to be an open book question. Isn't it?
Brother, one now. So we experience all this in our meditation also, right?
Not only meditation, outside meditation also.
Like when we sit in a meditation, starting with Shipta, then slowly we move to Niruddha, the end.
You repeated the same thing in other words. I've already answered that. Not only you experience all these things in meditation, you also experience this outside the meditation also. For example, you go and sit in a class. There are 10 people. 9 people are able to make sense of what is being said. But for some reason, you are not able to make sense of what is being said. That is a state of moodha. It can happen even now. So although these words are used in different contexts, every person can actually pass through these stages. During meditation also, outside meditation. But in meditation, you don't talk about ekagra vritti. We don't say that you require concentration in meditation. We say concentration is the outcome of meditation. So you don't experience concentration in meditation. What you experience in meditation is not concentration, it is absorption. That is different. You experience absorption, which is different from concentration. So in a way, what do you experience as moodha in meditation? If you don't know what is exactly happening, that is a state of moodha. Then you say in Tamil poda. Right? Moodha and poda go together. What do you say dhyan in meditation in Tamil?
Dhyanam only.
Dhyanam. Poda enna dhyana பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கு. That's what you say. If you're not able to grasp anything in meditation, that's what you say. Right? So, you can experience, but the ekagrati is something you might not experience in meditation. So, for example, if somebody, you call them for meditation, the person who is in Kshipta state will keep thinking about how to make more money, how to become more famous, how to do this, how to do that, even during the course of the meditation. So if they're going to do that, what is going to happen is the act of the meditation is going to make it even more stronger. So it's like Babaji saying that if you give transmission to a thief, he's going to become a very good thief. So if you give transmission to a person who is in a Kshipta state, they will attach to that idea even more strongly. That is what is going to happen. Okay? Anyway, repeat. ಭರತ್ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಐ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂತ. ಭರತ್ ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಎದ್ದು ಬಂದೆ, ಹಾಲು ತರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಕತೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇವಾಗ. ಐದು ಹೇಳ್ರಿ, 5 ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ರೂ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ. ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಯಾರೊಬ್ರು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೊಂಬೆ ತರ ಕೂತಿದ್ದೀರ.
क्षिप्ता, मूढ़ा, विक्षिप्ता, एकाग्रवृत्ति and nirodha.
ಇದೇನಿದು 4 ಜನ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು ಬಾಯ ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಪಾಪ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು.
ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಸಾರಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತಾ. ಅಲ್ಲ ಇವ್ರ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಫಿಸಿಕಲಿ ಎಚ್ಚರ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆದ್ರೆ ಮೆಂಟಲಿ ಇನ್ನೂ ಎಚ್ಚರ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಆಯ್ತು, ಮೂಢವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಯ್ತು ಸರಿ. To achieve this last stage, which is the Niruddha, sages have generally advised the well-known Ashtanga Yoga. So, under the Sajmark system of training, we start with Dhyana, the 7th step of yoga, fixing our mind on the point in order to practice meditation. The previous steps are not taken up separately, but they automatically come into practice as we proceed on with meditation. Thus, much of our time and labor is saved by this means. In short, we start our practice from Sham. So, Sadhana Chatushtayadalli, we start from Sham, the first of the 6 Shambatis of the third sadhana of the Vedantis, and devote all our attention to the proper molding and regulation of the mind, which is easily accomplished by the help of a transmitted power of a worthy master. Control of the senses and indriyas, Shama or Dhamma, follows automatically when we fix our mind on one thing or one alone, which is the reality, ignoring all others. Generally, most of the sages followed this course. So, Shama is a proper molding and regulation of the mind. That is Shama. Dhamma is a control of the senses and the indriyas. A few of the sects attempt to approach to Sham through the practice of karma and through others through the practice of bhakti or devotion. There are others still who set aside both of these and proceed on with the medium of gnana. In fact, the stages of karma, gnana and upasana means bhakti, are not different from each other but are closely interrelated and exist altogether in one and the same state. For example, he gives you, in upasana means bhakti, controlling of the mind is karma. The controlled state of the mind is bhakti, and its consciousness is awareness. This consciousness or awareness is jnana. So this paragraph, from for example till the end of it, that can come as a 1-mark question. From for example till the end of the paragraph. So in bhakti, controlling the mind is karma. The controlled state of the mind is bhakti, and being aware of that controlled state of the mind is gnana. In gnana, the process of thinking is karma, staying on the thought object is upasana, and the resultant state is jnana. So if you want to learn anything jnana, you have to think, that is karma. And when you establish yourself on the thought object continuously, that is upasana. And the resultant effect out of that is the gnana. Then in karma, the resolve to act is karma. The process of bringing it into practice is upasana, and the consciousness of the achievement of the activity is jnana. Consciousness is used in the context of awareness. You are aware of the outcome of the karma. That is gnana. Wanting to do an activity is karma. Actually doing the activity, putting into practice is upasana or devotion. And last one is that you are aware of the achievement of the activity, and that is the jnana. So awareness is the one which is related to jnana. Doing an activity or being settled on a particular thought object is the bhakti, or in the control state of mind, and the resolve to act or controlling the mind or process of thinking is karma. Now, thus, it is that in our system of training, they are taken up altogether most efficiently, creating automatically the state of Viveka and Vairagya in the pure sense. No practice is really of any avail if it does not naturally result in Viveka and Vairagya. The real form of Viveka is when a man begins to realize his own defects and shortcomings and at the bottom of heart feels repentant for them. So that's one aspect of Viveka. Viveka normally we say discriminatory intelligence. But here Viveka is also included. Babuji says the real form of Viveka begins when a man begins to realize his own defects and shortcomings and at the bottom of his heart feels repentant for them. That is the starting stage of Viveka. So that is also included. We have now dealt with the first two sampattis, the Shama and the Man. Now we now come to the third known as Uparati, which means self-withdrawal. Now in this state, a man is free from all desires, even those pertaining to the next world. Uparati means withdrawal, self-withdrawal. They are least worried about this world or the next world. Okay? He is not charmed or attracted by anything in this world. His mind is all the time centered in one and reality only. It differs from the state of Vairagya in the sense that Vairagya produces a feeling of aversion for worldly objects, while Uparati is a state in which both the feelings of attraction and repulsion are absent. So difference between Uparati and Vairagya. So that's also another question. Which of the Shat Sampatis are related to Vairagya? The answer is Uparati. In Uparati, neither you have attraction nor repulsion to anything. That is Uparati. In Vairagya, you have aversion to certain things. That's Vairagya. Sarina. Vairagya is really an incomplete form of this nobler higher state. So Vairagya is incomplete Uparati. Complete Vairagya is Uparati. Incomplete Uparati is Vairagya. Sarina. Complete Vairagya is Uparati. Incomplete Uparati is Vairagya. At this stage, our mind, our senses and the Indriyas are all completely purified. We begin to feel fed up with all external things and dissociate from them, thinking them not to be worthwhile paying any attention to it. We are free from the effect of attachment with the world. So, effect of attachment, hogide antandre, you should be at least in the state of Uparati. Attachment in the gnapka area. We only attach to things through the senses. It's the senses which actually attach you to the thing. I told you senses are the tentacles. You remember that? The senses and the indriyas help you attach to the object. So the mind cannot directly attach to the object. Mind can only attach to the object through the tentacles. Okay? We are free from the effect of attachment with the world. Even the comforts of paradise have no charm to such a man, nor does he feel any attraction for salvation, liberation, or any other higher ideals.
That happens at 11th point, alva?
12th point. Don't think that this state of Uparati is going to get established so easily. It comes with practice. You first pass to a stage of Vairagya, then Paravairagya, and then Uparati. So Vairagya is at the second point, Paravairagya is at the 8th point and Uparati is at the 12th point.
He has differentiated Vairagya and Uparati, but what about Paravairagya and Uparati?
It will come later on in another book. Don't worry.
Because it sounds very similar.
It's a finer state of Vairagya. Paravairagya is a finer state of Vairagya. In other words, the aversion to the objects are present, but in a finer realm, at a mental realm. So, Vairagya is where you are actually averse to the object, even at a physical realm. You run away from the object. In order to avoid the object, you run away from the object. So, there is aversion to the physical level. That is Vairagya. As you go higher, you develop that aversion at the mental level. That would be like Paravairagya.
So, I mean, just to ask you a question, suppose I'm very fond of Mysore Pak, let's say. Okay. Now, if I want to attain the state of Vairagya, even if you keep a Mysore Pak in front of me, I should control my senses and say, hey, I am not going to touch it. I'm not going to look at it. Is that Vairagya? That is forced Vairagya, isn't it? I'm
Correct.
forcing myself. So, is that good or is that?
If you have diabetes, if you do that, it's good.
No, that is okay. That's the physical. But,
1 minute.
hmm.
See, Vairagya is you see the Mysore Pak in front of you, and the only way that you can actually handle that Mysore Pak is to be away from Mysore Pak. You tell people, take it away, or you go away. So, in other words, you have aversion to it, and you're actually manifesting that aversion at the level of physicality by physically removing the Mysore Pak in front of you, or by going away physically from the presence of the Mysore Pak. This is the grossest level. At the physical level. Now, it's quite possible that at the mental level, you might actually be attracted to Mysore Pak. So, at the mental level, so you have a combination now. At a physical level, you are moving away. At a mental level, you might actually have attraction to Mysore Pak. And you tell others, hey, please remove it. If I see that Mysore Pak, I'll end up eating it. And I know that it's not good for my health. Okay. Now, there is something, an element of aversion towards it, although there is an element of liking also present in it. Right? You have not actually overcome the feeling of liking. So, when Vairagya is there will be some element of aversion. It could be based on some gnana of something higher, something it's going to be good for you. That's why you are actually averse. Although at the mental level, you still have the liking. So, this is like Vairagya. When you come to Paravairagya, at the mental level also, you are having aversion to that particular object. At the mental level also. So, there is no attraction at the mental level. You are averse to that object. Now, aversion is established in such a way that you don't require any other reasoning to be there. You just are averse to Mysore Pak. It's like you have made a vow that whatever it is, I am not going to eat the Mysore Pak. That is like aversion. And that Paravairagya is led by aversion. But at a subtler level. Difference between Vairagya and Paravairagya is that it is more subtler, finer state. Because it's in the 8th point, higher points. The lower point, the Vairagya is grosser. As you go higher, it becomes finer Vairagya, and that is called as Paravairagya. But in Uparati, the Mysore Pak is there in front of you. Neither you have feeling of liking for it nor dislike for it. It is just there like any other object. So, in other words, all the samskaras relating to the Mysore Pak have been washed away. There is neither liking nor dislike for it. That is Uparati. So, in that state, neither you ask them to remove the Mysore Pak nor you move away, nor you have any thought about the Mysore Pak. If somebody were to offer you Mysore Pak, you just eat it, whatever is necessary. If you feel like eating it, if you don't feel like eating, you don't eat it. There is no reasoning behind. There is no attachment to whether the act of eating or not eating. There is no, what do you say, happiness or regret that I ate. If you like it and you eat, you have happiness. If you are disliking it, if you still eat, you are having aversion. You feel dislike. Now, none of these things are there. Since there is no liking or disliking, there is no happiness or distress. When you do that, that's the state of Bharati. So now you can all try it out when you come for my house for sitting. I'll offer you the sweet, and then you can try all these things and see what is happening in your mind. Each one will get to know where is it, whether you are in Vairagya, Paravairagya, or Upriti.
No, but the point I was trying to make, brother, is somewhere in one of the books Master has written about forced Vairagya. You are forcing yourself. You are using your will not to eat the Mysore Pak. So that is not real Vairagya, isn't it? Vairagya, it should be automatic. You should not force yourself. That is control of your mind, isn't it?
That Vairagya that comes later on, which is automatic, is something that's not going to come immediately. It's going to come later on. So there is temporary Vairagya, there is forced Vairagya. So there are multiple types of Vairagya. And when we talk about Vairagya, we include all those things as Vairagya. Obviously, it's not yet stabilized, so to say. At the second point, you experience the state of Vairagya. It's not stabilized. It is an outcome of your practice. Since the desires come down, you develop some degree of aversion to the objects. Like, for example, you like playing cricket. When you develop Vairagya, you don't feel the same degree of enjoyment with playing cricket. This is what happens in depression also. So one of the signs of depression is anhedonia. Anhedonia means they no longer feel pleasure in previously pleasurable activities. That is
how do you spell that, brother? How do you spell that?
Anhedonia. 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 Donia. Anhedonia means no longer feeling pleasure in previously pleasurable activity. Previously, when you did that activity, you felt a lot of pleasure out of it. But you no longer feel that pleasure. So this is one of the basis of people being reluctant to act in patients with depression. Depression patients don't feel like doing anything. That is because they don't feel that pleasure in doing any activity. So they don't eat. So they lose appetite. They lose weight. They lose sleep. They can't sleep well. They don't feel like acting anything. That is because of anhedonia. It's very similar. In Vairagya, the only difference is in anhedonia, the basis for that feeling, lack of pleasure in previously pleasurable activities, is the altered mood, which is the depressed mood. But in Vairagya, there is no depressed mood. The mood is okay, but it's just that you have aversion to doing anything. That's all. Okay? ಇದೇನಿದು ವೈರಾಗ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. I thought the moment we read about Vairagya, all of you will develop Vairagya and you will develop aversion to asking questions. So it's gone exact opposite of that. It seems to have excited something rather than developing aversion. So I hope, Ganeshan, you have not developed that excitement for Mysore Pak that brother was talking about. Because I know some people here who have weakness for Mysore Pak. ಭರತ್ ನೀ ತಿಂತೇನೋ ಮೈಸೂರು ಪಾಕ? ತಿನ್ನಲ್ವಾ? ನೀನು ಬರೀ ಧಾರವಾಡ ಬೆಳೆದವನ? ಆಯ್ತು, ಗಣೇಶ್ ಕೇಳ್ರಿ.
Yeah, that was the exact question, brother. The example you took, I might have created a Vairagya not eating Mysore Pak, but when come to Dharwad, I am inclined. But that is not a Vairagya again, right?
Vairagya is like gradually it starts with one object and gradually extends to other objects. Again, we are now talking about different dimensions of Vairagya.
Correct. Yeah, that's the
Different stages
question.
of Vairagya, right? When we talk about Vairagya, we think that it all develops all at once. No,
Correct.
it happens
But at
gradually.
the same time, there are so many sweets. Since I have experienced Mysore Pak, we are talking about Mysore Pak as a Vairagya. But if I try something new, probably I will again create that. I don't have that Vairagya.
Correct.
Yeah.
So liking, attraction, then attachment. Initially, you will develop some taste of it. Then you develop attraction for it. Then you develop liking for it. Then you develop attachment to it. So Vairagya is only a detachment from the attachment. But the full detachment means the liking and the dislike both should go. You should become neutral. When you become neutral, that is Uparati. When you develop a negative state against something, a dislike for something or aversion for something, that is Vairagya. But you still have liking. So that cannot be Uparati. So both the liking and the dislike, both should be gone. So in other words, you develop repulsion in Vairagya. But in Uparati, there is neither attraction nor repulsion. For example, when you go to a movie theater, you don't know the people who are sitting next to you. You just deal with them in neutral way. Right? You neither have attraction to them nor you have any repulsion to them. You just deal with them in neutral way. That's it. Now that is Uparati. Okay. So I thought Gopal Krishna is reaching out to his mother to ask for Mysore Pak. By the way, one Abhyasi got the Mysore Pak cooked. He only did it and sent it. It's so nice, so soft, homemade. Now I can describe you. It's homemade. It is so soft that even before it actually melts in your mouth, it gets what do you say into pieces. By the time you pick up the piece, by the time you break the piece, it becomes it breaks down into multiple pieces. And just imagine if you put that Mysore Pak into your mouth, it just melts just like that. One
See,
of the
what
best
brother is
Mysore Paks I have eaten.
what brother is doing now is called enticing. He's enticing all of us.
He's testing our Vairagya.
Right. So I thought I give small piece of that Mysore Pak today to the people who come for sitting.
We
Gopal
came,
will say, okay, you give me the Mysore Pak, let me eat it, and then I'll think about Vairagya. Don't worry about it. First, let us finish the Mysore Pak, and then we'll worry about Vairagya.
we came on your birthday to have Mysore Pak only, but you didn't give us.
Oh, you should have told me. Now I have got 2 boxes of Mysore Pak. But you had the Mysore Pak, no, on that day?
No, we got sweet brought by Bhaskar brother.
No, I did not bring any sweet.
So anyway, next time somebody else also gave Mysore Pak a sweet. I can't remember. Now last few days, so many sweets have come. I don't know who gave what. And one box was a Mysore Pak only. So
Nandini. Nandini.
Nandini sister, the Mysore Pak. That was nice actually. Pretty nice. I don't remember.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಡಬ್ಬ ನಂದಿನಿದಿತ್ತು ಅವ್ರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ಯಾರು ಅದ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
See, Gopal Krishna now remembers more about the sweets here than myself. Right. No problem. So let's go further then. So now we have understood there are different dimensions or different stages of Vairagya, and it also does not develop all at once to all objects. It starts with one object and gradually expands. Except in depressed state. In depressed state, the Vairagya develops the anhedonia, which is the corresponding component in depression, develops in a slow state, in a all at once. So they gradually lose interest in any activity that they will have to do in the past. Okay, that's what happens. Now we have now described the difference between Uparati and Vairagya. That's another examination question. The fourth Shampati is Titiksha, or the state of fortitude. At this stage, a man is perfectly satisfied with what is allotted to him by God. He has no feelings of injury, insult, condemnation, or appreciation. They are just like that. No feelings at all. After establishing in Upariti, you can then be established in a state of Titiksha. Titiksha means fortitude or forbearance. If somebody praises you, you don't feel happy about it. You don't go beyond uh, happiness. If somebody scolds you, you don't feel unhappy also. You're okay with it. It's fine. So you are now have that ability to tolerate these kinds of things which are thrown at you. So this is called as forbearance or fortitude. So they are in a fort with forbearance. Like the fortitude and forbearance. Just remember these two words. The fifth is you are
It's
muted.
apt to, yeah. It's apt to narrate a story at this point if you know that, if
No,
you have
no,
heard
no.
of that.
Let's finish the other two sampatis and then I'll leave the field open for your story. No problem. We'll listen to the story. The
Hmm.
fifth one is Shraddha or faith, which is a very high attainment. It's very different from the preliminary state of artificial faith as discussed in the chapter Faith. The last one is Samadhana, which is a state of self-settledness on the will of the master without even the consciousness of it. At this stage, a man is perfectly devoted to the great matter with the master without any thought besides. So one homework for you people is now work out at each point, which point each of these six Shakti manifest. That's the homework. So Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhana. Work out at what points, as described by Babuji here, according to the description, at what point does each of these things manifest? According to our spiritual points. Then that will be the homework. ಭರತ್ ಶ್ರದ್ಧೆಯಿಂದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್ನ ಸರಿನಾ ಮೈಸೂರು ಪಾಕ್ ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡಲ್ಲ ಧಾರವಾಡ ಪೇಡ ನೆನೆಸ್ಕೊಂಡಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು ಬ್ರದರ್ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ
ಇಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿ ಅಂದೆ ಆ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ in Arabia there was a gentleman who had one of the finest breed of horses, and everybody used to look at it and appreciate. They say, oh my God, you're very lucky you have the finest horses. So he used to say inshallah. Okay. And one day what happens, all these run away or get stolen. Okay. And then again people say, oh my dear, you had one of the finest horses and today you have nothing, how sad. He says inshallah. Okay. A few months later these horses return to the stable. And again people, the way they talk, he says inshallah. Now he has a son and he grows up. When he's young, he starts riding these horses. He starts practicing riding these horses, and he has a fall. He has a fracture, or he breaks one of his legs. And then again, people come and say, oh, you have only one son, and see what has happened to him. Very sad, very sad. So he says, inshallah. He's neither happy nor sad, that state of mind. So, oh my God, okay. Then what happens is the king of that land goes to war with a neighboring kingdom. So the king is looking for uh, able soldiers, able young men who can defend his country. So they go from house to house looking for young men. They come to his house and find that, hey, you got one son, young, come on, send him to the army. He says, definitely you can take him. But when they see he's lame, They say no. I mean, he's useless. So he says, Inshallah. You know, that Inshallah, as God wills, it's nothing to do with Islam or something. I just thought. So, I mean, the state of mind that one should be in, whatever comes, it's His will. If you can accept that, I think we may have somehow reached that state. Ashtray.
The same story is written in a heartfulness way in the context of a Japanese farmer. So the thing is, many of these stories now are quoted in many different cultures. Very similar stories. So we just need to look at bringing the lesson out of it, learning the lesson.
Correct.
So that is the point. So there are very similar stories repeated across different cultures. At the end of the day, human mind is linked to collective consciousness. So one story which comes in one culture gradually spreads to other culture, and then they actually attach their own color to it. So it becomes part of that culture now. So that's how the story spread from one part of the continent to another part of the continent or earth. And each one actually puts their own coloring of their culture. They change the name. The gist of the story remains the same, but they change the name and the wordings. That's all. Okay. So that also indicates to us that we are all part of the collective consciousness. Okay. Or common consciousness. Or universal consciousness. Okay. ಸರಿ ಇದೊಂದು ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಸೋಣಂತೆ. We have thus dealt with the numerous various attainments of the third sadhana. Now we come to the last of the four sadhanas, which is mukshatva. Little remains now to be accomplished when a man comes to this stage except to develop close association with absolute reality, actual merging in the state of non-entity. It is the practical phase of realization and could be achieved after earnest practice of the elementary sadhanas under the older system of yoga. The modern system of Sahaj Marg makes a diversion from the set old path in the respect that it does not take up the different steps of Ashtanga Yoga one by one separately. Under this system, the asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi are all taken up simultaneously during the course of meditation. Meditation in due course leads us to concentration or the state of samadhi. Thus, we naturally proceed to samadhi, which is the final state of yoga. Here, he uses the word samadhi as a state of concentration. Again, I come back to the same issue that many times we use words in spirituality in different meanings, context of different meanings. Here, concentration or the state of samadhi. Babaji is using the word concentration in the context of samadhi. Don't confuse that concentration with our concentration or the ekagra vritti. You remember the ekagra vritti? That's a state of mind. That is what we use concentration as. But here, concentration, as Babaji is using, is in the context of samadhi. Okay? So let's park it here. Let's hope that you can maintain the state of concentration or samadhi till you come back tomorrow morning for the next session, where you will understand the different stages of samadhi. And that's also next examination question. The different stages of samadhi is an examination question. Sarina? Any questions you can ask now. ಏನು ಭರತ್ ಎದ್ದಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಮಲ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ಯಾ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡು ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಖದ ಮೇಲೆ. ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಮಲಗಿದ್ಯಾ, ಸುಸ್ತಾಗಿದ್ಯಾ, ಇನ್ನು ಅರ್ಧಂಬರ್ಧ ಮನಸ್ಸು ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಏನೋ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಭರತ್. ಅದು ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆದ, ಲೇಟಾಗಿ ಎದ್ದ. ಆಯ್ತು. ಸಿ ಸೋ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಪ್ಯಾಲ್ಪಬಲ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಫೀಲ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಭರತ್ ಅಂತ ನೆನೆ. ಹಾಂ, ರಾತ್ರಿವರೆಗೂ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ಸುತ್ತಾಡೋದು, ರಾತ್ರಿವರೆಗೂ ಏನೇನೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಕೂತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಹಿಂಗೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಿದ್ದೆ ಕೆಡುತ್ತೆ. ನಿದ್ದೆ ಕೆಡಿದಾಗ ಯಂಗ್ ಏಜಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲೂ ಹುರುಪೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಉತ್ಸಾಹನೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಉತ್ಸಾಹ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಬೆಳಗಿನ ಉತ್ಸಾಹ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸರಿ ಸರಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸೋಣಂತೆ. 7:25 ಆಯಿತು.
ಬ್ರದರ್ ನೆನ್ನೆ ನೀವೇನು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಉತ್ತರ ಸಿಕ್ತಾ? ಫೈರ್, ಹೀಟ್
ಯಾವುದು?
ಹೀಟ್ ಅಂತ ಏನೋ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುವಲ್ ಹೀಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಹೀಟ್ ಅಂತ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಆನ್ಸರ್
ಜ್ಞಾಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್, ನಾ ಮರ್ತೇ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಉತ್ತರ.
ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಈಗರ್ ಟು ಹಿಯರ್ ದಿ ಆನ್ಸರ್. ಅದೇ
I tried to find the answer, and in one of the perspective it said material heat is the one that comes from Nabhi, and spiritual heat is the one that comes from the third point, or the love, basically. ಆ ಥರ ಅಂತ ಬಂತು.
ಇದು ಚಾಟ್ ಜಿಪಿಟಿ ಉತ್ತರನಾ? ನಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಪೋಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ.
I tried to understand, and ಅದು ಫುಲ್ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೊಡ್ತು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇದು ಇತ್ತು.
ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಚಾಟ್ ಜಿಪಿಟಿ ಕೇಳಪ್ಪ. ಬಟ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್, ಚಾಟ್ ಜಿಪಿಟಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸೈಕೋಸಿಸ್. ಚಾಟ್ ಜಿಪಿಟಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ hallucinate. So in fact, one of the person's thesis was rejected because he had included many things in his thesis which did not have any reference to, and he had actually taken it from ChatGPT. So anyway, let's park the question for tomorrow. This is a very, very important concept: spiritual heat versus mental heat. In meditation, we tap into the spiritual heat, not the material heat. So it's a very, very important concept to have. Without heat, there is no life. Without heat, there is no spiritual progress. Heat is absolutely necessary for our spiritual progress. And what kind of heat? Not the material heat, but the spiritual heat. That we will talk about tomorrow morning. Okay, we'll start with that question, spiritual versus material heat, and then we can proceed further in the next few pages. Okay, we'll start from that question. Somebody remind me when we start tomorrow. Bharat, ನೀನೇ ರಿಮೈಂಡ್ ಮಾಡು. ನೀ ರಿಮೈಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಆನ್ ಟೈಮ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಿನಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಹೋಮ್ವರ್ಕ್. ಸರಿನಾ? ಆಯ್ತು, ನಾಳೆ ಸಿಗೋಣ. ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟೈಮ್. ನಮಸ್ತೆ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.